All right. Some outdoor skills of the pioneers. And we could spend a whole class talking about just outdoor skills. We're just going to hit some of the highlights here and move on. But these are things that early settlers would have done. At least some members of a neighborhood in the rural Ozarks would have known how to accomplish these various feats and to do these things. And some people still in the Ozarks. Bee hunting. What is bee hunting? How do you bee hunt? Well, if you're wanting to start your own bee gum at your house, you could be out looking. It's basically just what it sounds like, hunting for beehives. And in the 19th century, you would have been hunting for these in trees, usually in hollowed out trees somewhere. But you don't just go traipsing through the forest looking for signs of bees or swarms of bees. You can do that. But often the bee hunters would find, for instance, where the bees were coming to, congregating, where they were maybe coming to flowering plants or coming to get water, and would course them, what they call coursing them, or tracing them back to where they came. They say that bees will fly in straight lines. They don't really have to follow the roads like we do. They may be the only thing in the Ozarks, going anywhere in a straight line. The rest of us don't get to. But I remember hearing my grandpa talk about throwing flour on bees so that you could see them flying through the air better. Like you sit and wait for them to, you find out wherever they're coming, and whatever they're doing, their job, they're going to turn around and go back to their hive, and you flour them or you throw something on them that you'll be able to see, and you can follow them. And a good bee hunter could usually just sort of figure out the direction that they were going. And if you waited there, a few hours, that same bee that you had dusted with something would come back, and you can kind of figure out how long did it take him to get back here. And if you're good at your craft, you'll know about how far he's had to fly, and you can see which direction he's going. And if you can sort of walk in the same direction, you're going to get close. And so bee hunters had various methods of finding these bee trees. It was why would you care? What's so big about finding a bee tree? In the honey in the 19th century. This is a day when these settlers didn't go to the store and buy sugar. Honey was a sweetening. It may be the only sweet thing that you have. And it was highly prized by settlers across the country, not just in the Ozarks. And so it made people want to get out and find these bee trees. And there were even methods for cutting trees down. This is the day before chainsaws, so you didn't find a bee tree and just go up and saw it down. But bee hunters would try to fell the tree onto another tree, not just have it smack flat on the ground, because what would happen then? If you just cut a bee tree down, it just... Well, you can make them really mad, and if you're obviously around because you cut the tree down. But it's liable to break up, especially if it's a hollow tree. It means part of it's dead. It's liable to just splinter and maybe break up the hive and mess up the honey and all that kind of stuff. So you want to kind of fall it maybe on another tree and find some way to sort of ease it down. It's probably a better method than the old bear method. Just crawl up in the tree with them, and reach in there and see what you can grab. But so bee hunting was there, every community pretty much would have someone who was known as the expert bee hunter in the community. Somebody would have that reputation. And there are still people who are in the bee business today. Not a lot of people go out and bee hunt anymore, but there are some people in the Ozarks who still look for those bees in the wild. You know. And they've all been introduced to North America. So you got bee hunting, you got sugar camps. What's a sugar camp? Sounds like, someplace better than band camp, doesn't it?
Maple trees.
There you go. Yeah, it's a maple sugar. Another way to get sweetening in the 19th century was by tapping maple trees. And some people were serious enough about it where they would set up what they called sugar camps. And you might spend 2 or 3 weeks at a location with a lot of maple trees, usually in late winter, early spring. And you tap the trees and, getting the sap out. And that became known as sugar camps. And I've got somewhere, I think it may be the same fellow that we had. Here you go. Yeah, it's the same guy, James Campbell, again up in central Missouri. He's actually in the Missouri River Valley, but people were doing this in the Ozarks as well. And he talks about on February 9th, and this was in 1821, February 9th, 1821, he spent the day making sugar troughs. So, I'm sure he made them out of logs, and this is containers, to hold this in. And then it says, on March 1st, go to sugar camp, trees run well. That's what he writes. Go to sugar camp, trees run well. So he's got them going. He had tried about a month earlier, and he mentioned that the trees weren't running well. So he waited till a little bit later in the winter, kind of the early spring. And then on March 2nd, he says, make 24 pounds at camp. March 3rd, make 23 pounds. March 4th, make 22 pounds. Sort of a pattern there. I guess I don't know if he stays till he's down to 1 pound a day, but he does, for several days, he's at this sugar camp, tapping these maple trees. And so that becomes a popular activity on the frontier for some people in the rural Ozarks. Now here's